vote yet, hurry up and get it done before the end of the day. Ballots drop tomorrow. And hopefully everyone has received their voter's pamphlet or will soon receive it. So just a quick heads up on today's work session. The topic 6 will probably go a little bit longer. So we'll just need to be mindful of our time today because we have a lot to do. Does anyone have any questions on the contents of the formal agenda for today? Okay, seeing none, then we can dive right into topic 2. Oh, by the way, in attendance, we have Chair Catherine Harrington, Vice Chair Commissioner Nafisa Pai, Commissioners Treese and Willie, and I assume Commissioner Rogers will saunter in at some point. So topic 2, administrative policy proposed amendments to the Washington County Code. Welcome to our Chief HR and Human Resources Officer, Lisa Tackett.
And good morning, Chair Harrington and Board. I'm going to go ahead and kick this off. This presentation is proposed amendments to the Washington County Code. And as you all know, a few of us have been working on this project for some time. We've completed individual commissioner briefings with you. And so today we're bringing that to work session. Lisa Tackett and Courtney Duke-Dreesen and I will just take varying slides. I'm going to turn it over to Lisa. So thank you.
Thank you so much and good morning. Yeah, I'd like to jump right in and just give you a little more on the background of this and tell you a bit about the why we're seeking this amendment change. And so going on to the next slide, please.
Yes, you have the clicker.
Oh,
it might not be on yet.
Aha, thank you. There we go. I'll get it together. I'm kicking it off for us here.
Hey, it's a team effort.
Yeah, and so on this topic, we have some key questions for you. We'll review these. The slide will return again at the end, but just to kind of prime the conversation and for your review and consideration. What we're looking for today is whether the board is comfortable with proposed changes to the administrative manual and the ordinance. And then we'll have some conversation about how the board will review the manual in the future and what you might want that to look like, and what kind of, a work session and a consent agenda or otherwise. And then we would like to know your feedback on if you're comfortable moving forward with these changes. And then we can talk about what that looks like. So jumping into some background, as you know, there's an administrative manual policies, all the policies of how we administer our day-to-day work here at the county, and they're really just our rules of operation. And then there's a corresponding procedure for each. And so we have the policy, and the procedure talks about how we implement that policy and put it in action. And a little bit of background, back on September of 2016, the then board adopted policies 101 and 102, and those respectively govern the administrative policies and procedures in general, and kind of put some formal framework about on how that should work. And then it talked more about how the adoption, revision, and revocation of those policies would also work. So currently, when we have a new policy or we revise one, it does come before the board for your consideration and your approval. And then the procedure, the implementation part, moves over to the county administrator to delegate. There's delegated authority to administer that policy. So currently the approval and adoption rests with you. So looking at what the recommended changes are, staff has been reviewing this. We've had a team effort, and I'd like to give some credit to Brenda Bartlett on this as well. She's put in a lot of time and helped us navigate these changes and understand kind of the history of where the three of us picked it back up recently. And the administrative, what we noticed is that as we look through our administrative manual, they are really administrative in nature. And so we proposed some recommended changes to two of the county codes. One is 2.04-100, and that's the administrative authority. And then corresponding changes to 2.04-110, the administrative manual. And the change would be to delegate the authority to approve policies, administrative ones, from the board to the county administrator. And part of the reason why would be to create efficiencies. We have a lot of policies that we're supposed to be reviewing every 3 years, and we haven't. We have legislative changes. We have a lot of improvements around the county and under One Washington County efforts. So we have quite a few that we would foresee coming forward, and it would create some efficiency and then also consistency in the process of how we go about this work. So moving on to what those actual ordinance changes would look like. When looking at 2.04100 under administrative authority, in section D, you'll see, I'll point out just where the changes would be. And so the county administrator is delegated authority to repeal, replace, or amend any administrative policy previously adopted by the board. And then also, and this is the current authorities, that the county administrator will proceed with implementation. And I want to point out and highlight that last sentence in D, where it states that this section shall not apply to financial policies which will be approved by the Board of County Commissioners. We'll talk in more detail on the next slide there. I do want to point out, and we'll talk in a future slide as well, I'll expand a little bit about E, which is that the policies will still come before the board for some periodic basis and review. But I really would like to dive into the financial piece. So when we look at our administrative manual right now, there's numerical sections for the different types of administrative policy, and there's this 400 series that has a mix of what we considered administrative policies, but also there's some in there that are financial policies around the structure of financial management in the county. And so there's a divide between those policies that by state law were required to bring forward for the board's approval, and then others that are very administrative in nature. And so what this would look like is in our current policy manual, there's like the budget policy, and that's 404, 405 is contingency and reserve, and 406, the comprehensive financial management. Those are financial structures. And so those will be removed from the administrative policy and managed separately in accordance with our current process, right? They'll come before you for review and formal approval. The other ones that are more administrative in nature, 402, 403, and 407, how we go about procuring goods and services, the processes around that, travel and business expense, reimbursements to employees, employee allowances for the different fringe benefits and whatnot. And so those are administrative, and those will remain within the administrative manual and would be subject to this new proposed approval process. So the second code that would require changes if we were to move forward is 2.04100, and it's the administrative authority. These double-sided slides keep messing me up. I apologize. 204.110, the administrative manual. And here it talks about some time frame for the board to review the administrative manual. And currently we have in this proposed on an annual basis. This section shifts the approval from the board to the county administrator, and it aligns with the former section I reviewed, the 0.100. And so looking at A, this is where I can expand out a little bit more in the conversation around how the policies will still come before the board, and then the ability in B for the board to actually call for policies to come forward for review. And so the county administrator will provide the board a summary of administrative policies that were adopted, repealed, or replaced, and all the information necessary to understand the scope and intent of those changes, and would do that on some periodic review since the last, so to be like kind of a rolling review of all the new changes since the last time they were reviewed by you. And then in B, the commissioners may from time to time revise, add, or by resolution or order the administrative manual. So if there's a particular topic that is something that you would like more direct involvement in, the code will still provide that ability. So I'll pause there if there's any questions before I move on to just kind of take a look at what the general workflow would look like and the changes to that. Okay. So this is the current workflow, and apologies for the tiny boxes, but I will walk you through these. That first top, like those first three boxes to that fourth one where it starts really breaking out in the way the workflow, that's where staff will identify policies that are either new or existing that require update. There'll be there's a sponsoring department, a county administrative assistant county administrator will be involved dependent on the portfolio that it's coming out of. And then there's this collaborative review with various departments, including human resources, finance, equity and inclusion, and county council communications if needed. And then once the policy is developed in some sort of draft form, those changes are routed for review. And so it goes through an assistant county administrator. If approved, it goes to the county administrator. If approved, then it's placed on the board's consent agenda. There might be a work session such as this to review the policy. And then once approved, it moves towards adoption. And then, currently, that's where the code states that the county administrator picks it up from there and moves towards implementation. What the new workflow would look like is that top line would all be the same, where bringing policies forward, doing the drafting, working collaboratively across departments. And then where the difference is in that middle line where an ACA would be, an assistant county administrator would be driving the conversation based on the portfolio that the policies is coming out of. And then to the county administrator. And then the county administrator would adopt, repeal, or amend the policy. And then it goes right into implementation, and the process will continue there. And so key questions, reviewing these again, would like to hear from the board as to whether you're comfortable with the review that was described taking place annually. And then how would you prefer to have that submitted for your review, through what process? And then just generally, are you comfortable with staff moving forward with these changes as proposed?
So on number 2, how would the board prefer to the administrative manual reviewed, submitted for review? Well, that certainly depends on the scope of change, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So, if there's a lot of changes, substantive, then needs to get our attention, either through one-on-one briefings or work session. If it's just a bunch of, if it's only one little section, depends on if it's substantive impact or not. So it's a little hard to answer that question and pick one and do it this way.
That's fair, Chair Harrington. And I anticipate, because as Ms. Takich mentioned, we are behind in some review.
Yeah.
I anticipate the bulk of changes will be bigger. So that is a fair point, that maybe that's just something we look at how substantive it is and move forward in a way where we can explain what the changes are and do this through briefings.
And substantive can still be done in briefings,
Right.
but give us a summary of the section that changed, why it changed, what is the forward, positive impact of the change, right? That makes things a lot easier to understand something. And it's okay if something's out of date and needs just a full rewrite. Who knows, right? That's fine. We want to end up in a better place. So I think we trust the process. We trust your judgment. We just need a little help to figure out how to play our part. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. But I also would just want to say thank you. I mean, you're really moving the big boulder forward, and now it'll get easier as we move forward. So it's all part of bringing us into the right century here. So thank you very much.
I'll go next. Thank you, Erin and Lisa and Courtney. Hold on. computer is on. Normally I try to get on top of that. Thank you for this presentation. I think I had my briefing, was it Monday? No, Friday. Was it somewhere last, it feels very recent and fresh in my mind. And I think one of the question I asked was about when I read the material, just to reiterate, one of the things that I was concerned about is this a reduction of the role of the board. And one of the things I really appreciate that I did was really using the computer to sort of have one screen, the charter, and then one screen on this policy. And comparing the two documents, one thing that I understood and really appreciate was this isn't a reducing the board's role and responsibility, but is rather expanding the authority to the county administrator. So I really appreciated that part and the aha moment. And I agree about the streamlining process. And I also like that the board retains its oversight role, as you mentioned. I also like that I like what you said, but the workflow doesn't really got into this. But maybe it is a procedure and that's why you left it out. But I do like that the board has the final say, right? To repeal. And I myself like the annual review and the bit more of a like structured updates to give us the ability for the board to revise or intervene if necessary. So I don't know if those are really like adequate safeguards, but I think I'm in favor of annual review. And I also have a concern about if a revision or repeal happened in January and the annual review is in December. How do we get involved, the board? What is the touch points for the board to sort of know if this is impacting the strategic direction of the county in terms of operation side? And then one of the question I had on one of the slides you have is, you said, and I wrote it down last week, I might have asked you this in our briefings, but you said, and I think it's slide 1, if you want to push to it, to where it says, to ensure consistency in process. No, one more. Go forward. There you go. The last part of the recommended changes, it says to ensure consistency in process. I've been here for 3.5 years. I'm not sure we've expanded the county administrator authority. Could you help me understand what other process that took place that expanded the authority of the county administrator? Because that indicates that we're staying consistent in expanding this delegation.
Commissioner Fai, I think that this text is about we're talking about consistency in the process of administrative policies, not consistency across the county of expanding administrative authority. So we're trying to, one of the goals of this work is to make sure that when the subject matter experts are recommending administrative policies or changes, we have consistency in that process.
And if I might just add, the consistency also means we're looking through financial lens, the legal lens, the equity lens, the human resources lens. So we're taking all of those policies through that same process before arriving at implementation. Okay. So yeah, more to the process than anything having to do with the board's authority.
Yeah, and that's where this is step 1 in a larger volume of work that we're embarking on. And so should this move forward, then we'll be that policy 102, 101 and 102 that I talked about at the beginning, we would be relooking at that, and then holistically the process of implementation too. So this is one piece of a multi-part, and it's really to holistically bring that consistency of process. Mhm.
And then the list of categories of policies that are exempt from this expansion of delegation authority. Is there anything that we missed that should be part of the board's required approval?
So in looking at the, like holistically at the manual, and again, it kind of resides in one location, but there's a varying types of policies and format and form. So looking to bring consistency in that way, but upon review, the only one that we flagged were the financial policies, some of the ones that are structure based that are combined in with administrative. But those are the only ones that we identified. All the rest really truly appear to be administrative.
Administrative. Okay. Thank you.
Rest of us are thumbs up.
Thank you
Great.
so much for your time. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the posted morning agenda. So we will reconvene at 10 o'clock for our board meeting. And then we'll come back here after the lunch break. I believe, don't we have a time certain person at 1 o'clock today? No? No, we're just, okay. So just reconvene our work session at 1, but we do have a very full afternoon. And if you haven't already taken a look at the proposed Metro Council resolution, please try to do so. We will walk through it this afternoon. Okay, see you later.